All right, guys, we're ready for our Four Seasons sunroom, and Daddy's gonna get a rec room with refreshments.
Oh no, we'll be sleeping under the stars.
Mom, what about the one with, the fun?
Nice try, little bro. It's a gym. My gym.
Hey, Grandma's getting her Four Seasons garden room. Weather tight and still like being outdoors.
Maybe a living room. Oh no, wait, a family hub.
Yeah!
No matter what the budget, the season, or the climate, Four Seasons Sunrooms let you and your family enjoy the outdoors inside. Call now to receive your free, no-obligation brochure from the premier manufacturer of sunrooms since 1975.
More reasons for Four Seasons now.
To find out more, call toll-free 800-928-7007. That's 800-928-7007. Call 800-928-7007 today.
Wake up, America. I think I got something to say to you. I say this every week. I love the United States of America, and I want you to love the United States of America too. Office Hours with Dr. A is not a safe space, so enter at your own risk. You will be exposed to the truth, and I will endure the consequences. Again, rest assured, I will not try to put my brain into your head. I will, however, motivate you to think and to use the analytical part of your brain that very few people want to use because it requires actual effort, it requires actual work.
You've reached the office of Dr. Randy Arrington. Please have a seat, and the doctor will be with you in just a moment.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Arrington. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. A. On the line with me, as always, is Lou Esposito, producer, sidekick extraordinaire, and honorary tactical call sign Wench. You know why, folks? Because she doesn't take crap from anybody, even Slickery Trigger in the romper room. Lou, are you there?
I'm here. Slick would never try to give me any crap. He's like the best guy ever.
I tell you what, I had a blast at CPAC with all the people that we met there, all the personalities, the celebrities, and the pseudo-celebrities, and just the basic people walking through there. Coming up and meeting and greeting with us. I shook so many hands, got to meet so many wonderful people, and we have lots of interviews that we're going to line up based on those contacts we made up here in Maryland, just south of D.C. on the Potomac, and we also got to broadcast for about 3 hours up there from Broadcast Row during some of the more heated speeches. So if you were listening to that, you probably heard some of the raucous roar in the background of the applause. But it was really a lot of fun for me to be there and associate with all you guys. Did you have fun, Lou?
I had a great time. I met a lot of great people, and it was a great conservative event. It is definitely not a quote-unquote establishment event.
It's funny that you say that. It's a great conservative event. You know who bailed out at the last minute?
Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, Trump. The Trumpster didn't show up, much to Miss Stacey's chagrin, but yeah, he didn't show up. I was kind of disappointed in that. You got to be able to, handle the heat. You got to speak the truth and endure the consequences. At least endure the consequences. He didn't do that, but
he didn't want to answer questions.
No, I think that's right. And before we get into finishing off the chain link theory of the American collapse, I was listening to the TV pundits, and the mainstream media is saying that we should be impressed by what Bernie Sanders has been able to accomplish during this current presidential campaign. Dr. A has something else to say on that subject. I say this: we should be repulsed that ignorant, mind-raped Americans would actually support a communist to be our president. No, Lou, they know not what they do. Every single American should feel monumentally worried about the future of our union, its continued longevity as a free nation, and as a beacon of liberty for the rest of the world to see. It's ironic in that Bernie Sanders is always talking about equality, and it's not equality of opportunity, which is what we as conservatives talk about. It's equality of results. Here's what I have to say about that, and I teach my students this all the time. Any government that focuses on creating equality of results for their citizens in society ends up destroying both equality and liberty for the people in that society. What is the end result of that? The end result is bondage, slavery. Freedom is obliterated, and a huge, all-powerful, tyrannical government is what develops. Now, on the other hand, if you have a government that focuses on creating liberty for the people in that society, this creates the closest approximation of equality, the greatest measure of opportunity, and the most amount of individual liberty for the people in that society. What is the end result of that? The end result is small, limited government and freedom flourishing for everybody in that society. As you know, I teach this. It's not real hard to understand this, but Mrs. Clinton and Bernie Sanders are both communists. There is no difference between communism and socialism, Lou, except in the means of achieving the same ultimate goal for society. Communism enslaves men by using brutal, lethal, heinous force. They rule you at the end of a gun. Socialism enslaves men just as equally, but they use the votes of mind-raped, brainwashed, indoctrinated, programmed people. It's basically the difference between murder and suicide, Lou. And I know you know that. I'm just trying to put that out there so people can understand where we're coming from. So we're trying to speak the truth and endure the consequences. The chain link theory is something that I used when I did my doctoral dissertation examining the collapse of the Soviet Union, because I viewed it as a political accident. So what I did was I used chain link theory of aircraft accident investigation, is what we used to go put together the events of an accident and find out what happened there and discern the domino effect, if you will, that occurred for that accident. I used that to examine the Soviet Union. And last week I talked to you all about the variables that lined up in that Air Florida Flight 90 accident up in Washington, D.C., where they hit the 14th Street Bridge and pounded to the bottom of the Potomac, killing almost everybody in the airplane. And we talked about the various links that lined up to make that happen. Well, the chain link theory of the Soviet collapse, just to further ingrain this into your minds before we get to how I think the American collapse could likely occur. The first link in the chain of the collapse of the Soviet Union was political culture. Now, political culture is and should be the natural starting point for an analysis of any nation-state evolution. Of the many variables considered crucial for the stable development of any political institutional model, is to have the necessity for a dominant political culture, Lou, that is both congruent with and supportive of the government institutions. How can I put this simply? Political culture is the glue that holds a nation together. It is the undergirding foundation of society and government. As such, it contributes a sense of legitimacy to compatible government institutions. Okay, so political culture is where I started my analysis of the Soviet Union's collapse. That's a good place to start here in the United States as well. Link 2 in the Soviet collapse was Marxist philosophy. From a historical standpoint, Marxist philosophy corresponded almost perfectly to the dominant political culture in Russia, a dominant political culture that had been authoritarian for 1,000 years in Tsarist Russia. But at the same time, and we're going to get into this later in our probably a two-part series on cultural Marxism, there are several inherent problems which plagued Marxist philosophy from the beginning. Marxism contains numerous underlying contradictions and flaws, and these flaws render Marxism ultimately unworkable as an egalitarian political ideology, certainly in the Soviet Union and anywhere else in the world. Basically, it is indistinguishable from Nazism. What do you think about that so far, Lou?
Sounds dead on to me, Doc.
Third link in the Soviet Union's collapse was Lenin's legacy. Two of Lenin's most prominent revisions to Marxist theory were his creation of a vanguard of professional elites who were designed to force the Marxist revolution onto the backward and not theoretically ripe in Marxist terms nation of Russia. And his model for democratic centralism would prove later to be the crucial elements that eventually led to the decline and collapse of the Soviet Union during the reign of Mikhail Gorbachev. Link 4 was Stalinism. Stalin was as bad or worse than Hitler, probably worse than Hitler. Hitler killed, 15 million to somewhere in there, 12 to 15 million by the estimates. Your buddy Stalin killed about 45 million. Okay. Under his reign, the dictatorship of the proletariat became the dictatorship over the proletariat under that iron boot, if you will, of Mr. Stalin. Link 5 was Brezhnev and his gerontocracy. He basically, as the general secretary, marked the Soviet Union's attainment and recognition as a military superpower, sort of, at least at that time, in the minds of some people, on the same level as the Soviet Union. But the Brezhnev era was a time of stagnation, and this stagnation was apparent in 4 major areas that I analyzed: political stagnation, economic, ideological, and social. The Soviet Union had a crisis of reform. Soviet history since about 1917, and with greater force since the death of Stalin, when that occurred in 1953, alternated between periods of reform and conservatism. I call this in my doctoral dissertation the rhythm of the Soviet experience. And in short, it entails a forcing of history, a manipulative and destructive strategy which became the trademark of the Soviet socialist experiment, beginning with the Bolshevik Revolution and continuing through the Gorbachev.
Can I stop you for a minute?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
A manipulative strategy? Sound familiar?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm doing it.
And I'm not just talking about Hillary.
I know you're talking about Donald Trump. And you're talking about Obama.
I'm talking about Obama. I'm talking about Trump. I'm talking about Hillary. I'm talking about a lot of people.
We don't want to get caught with our politicians, without us knowing it, manipulating us. And it happens all the time. I call it brainwashed. A mind rape. You tell me I should dumb that down, but I'm not going to do it. This rhythm was not regular, and so that was a problem. Number 7 in the Soviet collapse, which I think is probably the most important, and I think it's going to affect the United States, and we ask our people that come on with us about this very question. A crisis of nationalities. In retrospect, the magnitude of the nationality and ethnic crisis that was present in the Soviet Union was tantamount to a ticking time bomb awaiting its detonation. In the minds of this diverse group of people, and by the way, there was 143 different nationalities who did not assimilate and become Russian. Is that ringing bells with you, Lou? We have all these diverse cultures coming to the United States. They refuse to assimilate and become Americanized. That attitude that you talk about all the time, that is American. They want it. They want their own little enclave, Iraq, Syria, Korea,
but there's a big difference. The people who come here willingly.
Yeah.
The people that were brought into the Soviet bloc were done so. It was done by force.
Right.
And that's the big difference. And you can't blame someone for when they're invaded. You can't blame them for not assimilating. But when you come somewhere willingly, you should do so to assimilate or not come.
Just to digress for a second here, up there at the CPAC, I was very fortunate to interview a fellow radio host. Her name is Sam Sorbo. Lou loves her. It's reciprocal. They love each other. Nobody loves Dr. Ray. They always love Lou. and I interviewed her, and we were talking about truth and how I say truth changes. I say truth changes people because I'm talking about human interpreted truth. Human interpretation of the truth changes. And Sam interrupted me and said, I disagree, and she gave her point. Everybody sitting there at that table started cackling like chickens, saying, Sam Sorbo just owned Dr. A. I beg to differ. But it was fun. I enjoyed that. We're going to have her on for a whole hour.
Well, we had just had a different take on it. We were actually saying the same thing.
I know.
Saying it differently.
The air boss said that Sam just owned Dr. A.
Well, that's the air boss giving you crap.
Now, back to the Soviet Union. The USSR was truly a society in which national differences, the diversity of nationalities, seemed to prevail over uniformity of thought, which is what any totalitarian, I don't care what shade of totalitarianism you're interested in, they always want uniformity of thought. That's what the cultural Marxists are doing right now. Hate America, hate America, hate America. In fact, Soviet leaders had consistently miscalculated, like ours do, this ethnic dilemma to the point where the Soviet melting pot in reality was a cauldron ready to boil over with ethnic turmoil. And that's happening right now in the United States, whether you believe it or not. They had a crisis of economics in the Soviet Union that contributed to their demise. We have a crisis of economics right now. Socialism doesn't work, folks. It doesn't work. I'm sorry. You run out of other people's money, and people no longer want to go out and contribute, and they lose their innovation. They lose their desire to create. So that's a big problem. Crisis of ideology was big time there, and then Gorbachev was the one that opened up Pandora's box with all his changes and reforms that he wanted to introduce. So that's how the Soviet Union collapsed. Now, looking at the chain link theory of the American collapse, and I think this might come about, Barack Hussein Obama, he is indeed incompetent if you view him from the perspective of an American politician who reveres our Constitution, respects our traditions and moral values, nurtures our dominant political culture, which we just talked about, how important that is, promotes our capitalist economic system, and here's one that I think you'll like, Lou, and from a politician that fears God. From his first day in office, Obama has done none of this, Lou. In fact, he and his administration work every single day to destroy each of these basic guiding principles of our society and to actively foment Marxist anarchy and communist chaos within our nation. If you view Barack Hussein Obama from the perspective of a communist revolutionary, he's not incompetent. He's highly competent. Mr. Obama has purposely, listen to me, purposely, this is where I agree with Marco Rubio, purposely dragged America closer to destruction and collapse and into a communist transformation more than any other clandestine Marxist has ever been able to achieve. Now, you got to trust me, trust Dr. A on this one subject. You will not enjoy living in a communist society, because the only way Marxism works for a brief period of time is, again, to reiterate, for the totalitarian government to brutally murder millions of innocent people.
And if you think you would enjoy it, do you remember how many people were shot trying to bust the barricades at the checkpoints in the Berlin Wall?
I do.
But do you remember the number?
I can't remember the number, but they killed a bunch of them who just were hung up in the wire, too.
It was hundreds, if not, over 1,000. It was a daily event that they would shoot someone trying to bust through a checkpoint at the Berlin Wall. And the fact that they had checkpoints at the Berlin Wall should tell you how much fun it is to live in a communist society.
Well, why do the communists do this? They do this to inject total fear into the masses, us, in order to control our every action, our every thought, 24 hours a day. Now, from an analytical perspective, this is what I see happening in the United States of America at this very moment, people, right under our noses. Please trust me on this. Speak the truth, endure the consequences. It is a diabolical process of national destruction being perpetrated by the radical left that actually began to take shape sort of incrementally during the Woodrow Wilson administration many years ago. This stuff doesn't just happen overnight. The United States of America is currently going through the initial phases of a socialist communist revolution straight out of the playbook of Marxist theory, and it is occurring right before our very noses. I just said that. Therefore, for the rest of the show, I humbly present for your consideration the chain link theory of the American collapse. Now, individually, each of these links in the communist revolutionary chain could not achieve the ultimate goal of collapsing the United States. But when simultaneously combined together, the objective of a communist transformation is suddenly, incredibly within reach of the Marxist architects who are clandestinely orchestrating it. This is how you would proceed if you were purposely attempting to fundamentally alter, fundamentally change our society and destroy America. Now, when we go through this, as you're listening, I hope you're listening intently, see if these variables raise any alarm bells in you like it has in me. And I know it has in Lou Bell, JD and Stacy, and some of the other people I've spoken with. We talked about this a little bit up at CPAC as well. Now, listen to me. We still have the power to stop and reverse this process, but the time grows ever short. The next election, probably the next two elections, but this next election for sure is integral to reversing this communist revolution before it's too late. What I'm telling you is this: good men and women must act now to stop the collapse of our beloved nation. Okay?
Okay, Doc, before you get into the chain link theory and all the steps, all the links in the chain, let's go to this week's Book of Beaker, and we will be right back.
Music on Office Hours is provided by Tennessee Jed, whose new CD, Stronger, is available on iTunes.
A reading from the Book of Beaker, Zayas 14, the parable of the talking chimpanzees. The teacher went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered that instead of roping off the unwashed masses behind barricades, he got into a boat and sat in it while people stood upon the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, "Beneath the forbidden zone dwelt the establishment of a once great party. So consumed were they by greed and power and abject stupidity, they became blind to the very needs of the people their apparatus was designed to serve. As their influence waned, the establishment became more and more insular, eventually becoming so out of touch with the people that they sealed themselves away. Now in their mad quest for an expansion of power and control, the secluded establishment inadvertently created a monument to their own folly. For you see, the frustration and anger of the systematically ignored and betrayed people began to coalesce and mutate into something darker, thus creating a perversion of ideals. Wisdom became incoherence. Liberty gave way to authoritarianism. Consistency became irrelevant. Principles devolved into talking points. And everything became negotiable. Until, in a flash of inevitability, an avatar of animus was created, and the establishment stared in slack-jawed horror over what their ignorance had wrought, desperately trying to contain their inadvertent creation. Meanwhile, the very essence of what the establishment would call the Donald Bomb infected a portion of the people of the party, and beyond. In truth, the corruption of some was a foregone conclusion prior to the advent of the Donald Bomb, but for others, the corruption was tragic. This collection of dross and once good people devolved into savage creatures. Their behavior would later earn them the name chimpanzees, who flung insults and attacks as their hirsute namesakes flung excrement. These chimpanzees were driven into frenzied madness and attacked the establishment in an attempt to reach the Donald Bomb. Possessing little testicular fortitude and only a rudimentary spine, the establishment was overrun until only one remained, called the Priebus, who pled with the chimpanzees not to release the Donald Bomb. "You fools!" he cried in a hoarse voice, nearly overcome by his own impotence. "If you unleash the Donald Bomb, you will destroy us all. Everything we have ever worked for, that all of us have ever worked for, will become unto dust." But one of the coherent chimpanzees replied, "The grand old party is now only capable of acquiescence." And with that, an orange, stubby-fingered, oddly coiffured blast of animus was released upon the land, and all faded to white. On one of the 100 nations of the earth lies a medium-sized continent, and its once greatest country, from sea to shining sea, now lies in ruin. And the people on the shore then asked, "Oh, teacher, why do you speak to us in parables?" And the teacher replied, "Because apparently you're too fucking stupid to realize what should be plainly evident to those with rational cognitive functioning." This has been a reading from the Book of Beaker.
Okay, that was this week's Book of Beaker. Now, Doc, give us those links in the chain.
Okay, Book of Beaker was great. The chain link theory of the American collapse. Number one, here's what you do to destroy America. Gut the military and the national defense industry so that our nation is weak and highly vulnerable to enemy attack and enemy invasion. Purge most of the senior military leaders, the good ones, and replace them with incompetent puppets of the regime, the yes men, who will do exactly what Mr. Obama tells them to do. Create a rival, armed civilian military police force, if you will, to do the bidding of the dictator without question. Does that ring any bells on you, Lou?
You're ringing lots of bells, Doc.
Isn't this what Hitler did? Isn't this what Stalin and Lenin did? They did they did this. That knucklehead in North Korea, who just, by the way, threatened to launch missiles at Washington D.C. nuclear tipped missiles just like yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, whatever it was. Of course, I don't think they have the capacity to do that, but he always threatens to raise.
Yeah, he's asking for a coup over there, I believe. But yeah, he's been killing off generals since he came. Since he came into power.
Unfortunately, he's got the Red Chinese sort of behind him.
Well, he's their terrorist arm.
Yeah, but they got to realize he's not doing them any favors by doing this stuff. Link number 2, the chain link theory of the American collapse. Destroy the economy, collapse the capitalist economy with runaway train wreck spending, extreme unemployment, and devalue the currency so it becomes worthless. Lou, we got 93 million Americans out of the employment force right now. It's never been that high ever, and yet the Obama administration and even Fox News touts this has a 4.9% unemployment rate. This is a bunch of hogwash, people. They are fixing the numbers. The actual unemployment rate is about 20%. Do you hear me? 20%, not 4.9. There's 93 million Americans who are not working that should be and could be working. This is done on purpose.
And we're not counting everybody on welfare in that either.
No, exactly. Well, that's their job, to collect welfare every 30 days. Mm-hmm. The reason they're doing this is because they want to make a majority of people, how should I put this, totally dependent on the government apparatus for every aspect of their daily existence. And when you do that right there, this leads to moral decay and ultimately to the internal implosion of society. People, it's happening right this second. And it's being done on purpose. I'm not a Marco Rubio fan. And he repeated himself 3 or 4 times. He said everything Obama is doing is on purpose. He's right about that. The little boy that he is, he's right about that. I heard Sean Hannity the other day say incompetent, feckless, whatever. No, he knows what he's doing, Lou. He knows where he wants to take this country. He told us. He didn't telegraph it. He told us. And that's what's happening right now. We've got to wake up, speak the truth, endure the consequences, teach these people what is actually happening. Even the ones that are the mega lefty liberals, they, and the ones you talked about on welfare, they will fare the worst. He's hurting them right now. He's hurting them the most. And Mrs. Clinton, who I still think is going to get indicted, my sources up in D.C. just last weekend told me she's going to get indicted, or Bernie, the socialist, will hurt them the most. They've got nothing to lean on. So there's number 2, collapse the capitalist economy. Chain link number 3 in the United States, collapse the American society. Encourage class warfare. Encourage race warfare. Create extreme civil unrest. Lou, do we have that?
It's getting more and more extreme, yeah. They've tried to do that, throughout for the past 50 or 60 years. They've tried to do that quite a few times. I'd say 100 years, actually.
And some of my questions are rhetorical in nature. I know you know the answer. I'm just
right. Yeah, I might say 150 years.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, they've been doing that frequently.
Did you happen to by chance see the trailer for Dinesh D'Souza's new movie? It's coming out in the summertime, right before I think it's coming out the weekend before the Democratic National Convention.
I have not. No spoiler alerts.
I saw.
Watch the trailer.
Hillary's America. Oh man,
lovely.
He's done a good job. He'll be back in jail before it's all over with. They'll find something he's done.
Right? Yeah, he'll be back in court.
Yeah. So encourage race warfare, class warfare, extreme civil unrest is the goal. Play the blame game and identify an internal enemy as the villain that is responsible for the misery and failure of the have-nots in society. What villains have we identified? Not we, but the people that are trying to...
those darn obstructionist Republicans.
Yeah, white privilege. Are you privileged? You're white. Are you privileged?
I'm blessed.
I was privileged this weekend to meet, and honored to meet all these wonderful people that I was allowed to meet. It was just wonderful. So if you call that white privilege, okay, I was.
No, I'm blessed, but I've worked very hard.
You earn. And
I've helped a lot of people in my life too through that work.
That's one of the reasons we're here. If we can, we're in a position to help people. We do that, and that's something we should do all the time. So white privilege is one of those villains responsible for the misery of the have-nots. How about capitalism? We just discussed that up there, number 2. That is a villain. It comes out of Bernie Sanders' mouth every time he speaks, as well as Obama and Mrs. Clinton. And you said conservatives, Republicans, whatever you. I got that right here in my notes. Conservatives are a villain. You know what? Conservatives are the saviors. Could be the saviors of this nation. Conservatism, I'll put it that way. Getting back to our traditional founding fathers' principles and roots of our Constitution. Christianity is a villain. Are you offended when I say that? I don't think it's a villain, but that's what they think it's a villain. Christianity needs to be knocked down according to them.
Well, I mean, I think Christians are used to it, right? So we just go, yeah, sure, whatever, because being Catholic and seeing the work that Catholic Charities does, I know better.
Weren't we told by Jesus Christ himself, you are going to be persecuted because of me?
Right.
You believe me, you're going to be. So it happens all the time.
Yeah, and we're used to it. So we go, oh, yeah, okay, whatever.
Encourage and sponsor anarchy and chaos, and then offer tyranny as the only viable solution to our national security and longevity. That's it. That's what they're doing. The majority then allows tyranny to flourish and liberty to vanish. That's exactly what would happen when you have number 3 take over. Who's the villain? Who's the villain? Number 4 in the chain link theory of the American collapse. You're going to like this one. I think Donald Trump likes this one. Obliterate all borders. Obliterate all borders. Encourage and allow everyone to enter the nation with impunity. Is that happening right now, Lou?
Oh, it absolutely is, and it's happening intentionally, and it's a surrender of our sovereignty.
Is it coming straight from the Oval Office?
Well, I think we saw that last summer, certainly when the word was given to South American countries that, we're not going to stop you, and we saw the huge influx of hundreds of thousands of people across the border, and no one could stop them. There were too many of them to stop.
Well, let me just tell you something. We should know this, okay? That when you try and combine an open borders society and combine that with a welfare state, that leads inevitably to national collapse. The two just don't go together. And that's what's happening right now. You invite these people to come here and say, look, we'll feed you, clothe you, and you don't even have to work. We'll just give you money. And you see these Muslims, these working age Muslims, who a lot of them are ISIS. I'm going to tell you right now, are jihadists. What's one of the first things they say when they come across the border? We want our money. We want our money. Was that a good accent? I don't know.
Well, yeah, JD does a better one, but it wasn't bad.
We want our money. What do you mean you want your money? It's not your money. It's my money. It's our money. It's not your money.
Well, the government thinks it's their money.
Is it the government's money? No, it's not.
No, it's not, but they certainly believe that it is.
I can see us, getting into a situation where we have a tax revolt, too. So there's the number 4 of the chain link theory of the American collapse. Obliterate all borders. Language, borders, and culture are so important. Number 5, devaluation of the English language with sponsored proliferation of numerous languages as acceptable communication alternatives. And what you do here is you do not formally identify English as our national language. But what you do is the government engages in the wholehearted embrace of a diversity of languages. This is a huge problem, Lou. This is a killer right here, and it's happening all the time. You walk into some of these places. I voted in Georgia like it was last Tuesday, and they had 100 different ballots, 100 different languages. I think that's wrong.
Well, it is wrong. And here, let me just put an exclamation point on why it's wrong. In order to get your citizenship, you have to make the Pledge of Allegiance in English, correct?
Correct.
You have to take the test in English, correct?
As I understand it, yes.
If you can do that, you can vote in English. If we need ballots in other languages, we clearly have non-citizens voting.
You know, when I went to vote, I brought my voter ID card with me here from Georgia. I live in Peachtree City. And I handed it to the poll worker. She says, I don't need to see that. I said, excuse me? She goes, no, I don't need to see that. I said, well, I want you to see it. I want you to know I'm a citizen and I have the right privilege to vote in this election.
I thought you did have to present your ID to vote in Georgia.
No, she said, I don't need to see that.
But it's the law in Georgia. Why did you not have to show it to the poll worker?
I showed, I believe I showed a driver's license. I don't even know if I showed that, Lou. I can't remember now, but she did not want to see my voter ID.
Well, then she was breaking the law in Georgia, wasn't she?
Did I help her break the law?
No. But that would be my question. Was she breaking the law in Georgia by not requiring you to show your ID?
The last time I voted was at a different polling place. I did the same thing. I brought my voter ID with me. This guy says I don't need to see that. So maybe the law has changed, or maybe they're breaking the law. I don't know, but I was dumbfounded.
I've certainly seen poll workers break the law on multiple occasions, and I would certainly call my congressman and ask that question if I were you. Call my state legislator.
My state legislator is a guy named Matt. He's resigning. And my U.S. Congressman
still ask the question. I'd find out if I were you, Doc.
He's resigning to run for governor.
I would find out, and I would report them if they were violating the voter law.
Okay, I'm gonna do some research into this. I was just kind of there for the ride. I wanted to vote.
Well, here in North Carolina, we have a voter ID law, but we're being sued by the federal government, so we don't have to show ours yet. I don't believe Georgia is being sued by the federal government, and it's my understanding that you guys do have to show your ID. So I get so
disgusted by the federal government. Why is the federal government involved in voting? It's a state issue. They should only get involved if people are actually being denied their right and privilege to vote, which I know occurred in the South. And so they stepped in to make sure that blacks that were allowed to vote could vote, and they weren't scared away. They didn't have to pay a poll tax and all that
I would
stuff.
encourage our audience to look at what's happened to North Carolina over the past 4 years with regards to voter ID laws. They will be fascinated and horrified.
Wow. All right, so link number 6 in our chain link of American collapse: the evaluation of traditional American culture in preference to extreme diversity. We ask that question to everybody that comes on and is interviewed by Dr. Arrington. I ask them about the possibility, could extreme diversity, too much diversity, cause the United States to collapse? And we got some good answers on that from different people that we've talked to. And I know the answer is yes. Well, I don't care what they say. I know what the answer is. It's yes. You have extreme diversity. And I mean diversity that is not assimilated. I don't mind anybody coming here from anywhere that seeks the American way of life. Where else can you get this? I mean, this is the best place to be on earth. It is the shining city on the hill. But you've got to assimilate and Americanize yourself, become American, and take those exams in English and become an American, not a hyphenated American, Italian American, Irish American. No, become an American. I don't care where you come from, but become an American. Like Lou has been teaching you in the audience, it's an attitude. You got to have that attitude. You got to learn it.
State of mind.
State of mind. Cultural warfare, Lou, also includes destruction of the traditional American family and our family values. Government, under this one, becomes an advocate of moral decay. in society. It's what they want to happen. Discredit the undergirding national culture in favor of this extreme diversity and nationalities of all kinds as being equal to or superior to our own culture. Barack Obama has done this from day one when he told the NASA, as a small example, the NASA administrator, your job is no longer to put people in space. Your job is to reach out and show the United States all the great contributions that the Muslims have made to science. Are you kidding me? I can tell you right now what contributions the Muslims have made to science. Zero. Nada.
They added a zero.
Oh, geez.
They did add the zero.
In my opinion, they're all zeros. No offense intended.
No, but they did. To the numbers, they added the zero. It's a very important number.
Number 7. How much time we got? We got a break? What do you got to do here?
Yeah, we can go ahead and take a break if you want to and come back and do number 7.
I'll rest my voice on my mind.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Office Hours on WNJC. It's brought to you by the Conservative Commando Radio Network.
I looked all over, so how can it be? Here comes the wrecking ball, swinging at me.
K98 Talk is continuing to expand its lineup. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level, or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org.
They know I mean well and smiling as hell if they try. They open their mouths, only hatred spews out with their
Edit that out.
A very appropriate song, I think, for this episode of Office Hours. We're back. Dr. A, I think you were on number 7.
Number 7 in the chain link of the American collapse. Discredit the founding documents and our forefathers. Discredit them. They're basically being discredited as with agents of criticism. Okay, you use the court system, the courts, as your agent of criticism against the founding documents and our founding fathers. By that, they are devaluing and ultimately destroying our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. The other day, Mrs. Clinton didn't even know one from the other. I'm not sure she's read them as the supposed lawyer she is. You also promote and allow cultural Marxism. Promote and allow cultural Marxism and political correctness to permeate everywhere in our society, thus controlling the behavior and, probably more importantly, controlling the thought process of Americans. This is the process that I've coined the term mind rape. I know, just to stop for a second here, I know that some of you, especially the ladies out there, get a little bit of a rise in the hair in the back of your neck there when Dr. A says mind rape. I want it to be raw. These cultural Marxists are stealing our children's brains against their will. That's what they're doing. And they're creating this whole generation of people that will be easy to manipulate because they've been mind raped, programmed, indoctrinated, brainwashed, whichever term you want to use. They've been made to hate the United States of America and what it represents. And that's what's occurring right now for people. Number 8, attack and devalue Christianity, the Christian religion, its fundamental precepts and icons like Jesus Christ, like the celebration of Christmas, like Christmas trees, and religion in general. What they do is they actively promote atheism or Islam, which I teach people all the time, Islam is not a religion. It is basically totalitarian ideology of complete control over human behavior and human thought, simply masquerading as religion. That's all it is. And I know that's going to offend some people, but I'm telling you, that's the truth, people.
I don't know why that should be offensive. It's opinion, and it's fine for anyone to have whatever opinion that they want to about anything else. Why can't you have the opinion that Islam is an ideology without being offensive?
Well, we're going to, in the future, people, just so you know, I'm not trying to put any spoilers out here. We're going to have Brigitte Gabriel on the show, one of our Lou's favorites, and we got to meet her several times up there at CPAC. And I think she's got the people in jihad who want her dead.
Oh, I'm sure she's got several fatwas on her, but she is a sweetheart.
She has fatwas on her?
Oh, I'm sure.
She does? Okay.
I'm sure. I've never looked to see, but I'm sure.
I think Brigitte Gabriel speaks the truth and is enduring the consequences. And I hope the ultimate consequence is that the fatwa or two that are placed in her head become successful, because I think she's valuable for education about Islam.
Right? Yeah. They're never successful.
The political ideology of
right.
totalitarianism that it is.
Yes, and she has a unique take on it. She grew up around it. She knows it as well or better than anyone does. Okay.
And number 8 in the chain link theory of the American collapse: facilitation of politically expedient and politically sponsored corruption. Did you hear what I said, folks? Politically sponsored corruption. Create a domestic spy network to monitor all citizens, then put dissidents in jail for crimes against the state. That's what they do in Russian, and they did that in Russia, Cuba, North Korea, China. That's what they do in totalitarian nations. A little spy network. They had children spying on their own parents, turning them in. They got thrown in jail, Lou. And then later on, you have what they call show trials, and public executions. Now, it's a little bit different right now in the United States. It'll change if they ever actually transformed to the communist society. But our current DOJ, IRS, NSA, and DHS basically have turned into highly corrupt political bureaucracies. And the show trials that we seem to be having right now before Congress are the kind of show trials where the left is trying to exonerate the people that are committing these heinous crimes against the nation. Not a show trial to engage in their public execution, but a show trial to exonerate them and execute the public, if you will, for even thinking that there's a smidgen of corruption in my administration. Not a smidgen, Bill O'Reilly. I laughed my rear end off when I heard him say that, and O'Reilly let him get away with it. I'm losing respect for O'Reilly.
He questioned him on it, and I'm not one to defend O'Reilly, but he did question him on it. He said, not a smidgen?
Yeah.
And he said it a couple
times. There's not a smidgen of corruption. There's a dumpster full. There's a whole dump truck full of corruption in every agency, every bureaucracy in the United States, because they get orders from Barack Hussein Obama and Valerie Jarrett and the rest of these knuckleheads, communists.
And he's not the first.
No, of course not. Of course not. All the lefties want to make this happen. They want to control. And that's what it's all about, is controlling human beings for their benefit. Do you think that they or their children would ever have to suffer if we ended up having a fundamental transformation, becoming a communist nation? Do you think they would have to suffer? The answer is no.
Well, I think eventually they would.
Yeah, eventually would, because they probably would be subject to the counter-revolution later on that took place.
Yes, they would.
But in the interim, they would be the Politburo at the top, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the United States of America.
But in the end, they'd be Marie Antoinette.
In the end, they would just like Marie Antoinette and her lovely husband, who ended up they didn't get the cake, didn't get to eat anything.
Yeah, they got the guillotine.
Well, they got yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Number 9, control of communication and control of the dissemination of information, to include overt repression of the truth and overt proliferation of false propaganda, of lies and fraud and deception. You hijack the media. Goebbels was the Nazi minister of propaganda. He taught that if you tell a lie often enough, it will eventually become the truth in the thought process of weak-minded people. That's exactly what's happening right now. Weak-minded, mind-raped, whatever you want to call it. I apologize to anybody that is offended by that raw terms.
Stop
I've
apologizing
created,
and just stop using it.
I can't do that. I got to be me, Lou. 10, strict control of transportation and strict control of energy production. Lou, we've got more oil and gas reserves in the United States of America than anywhere on Earth. We just have to go get it. Have the right public policy implemented.
They've made it impossible to get it.
They made it impossible to get it. We got to go get it. We can't be dependent on these Muslims in these countries. We can't. Me against my brother, but me and my brother against everybody else. That means they're all against us. No matter what they do, look at you and say one thing. As soon as you turn your back, they're against you. Trust me, people, this is happening. 11, infiltrate, then control the education system and use Marxist propaganda as the undergirding foundation for teaching students about everything. I was sort of universally shunned at all the universities I taught at because I was a conservative truther. I spoke the truth. I didn't buy into their Marxist propaganda, and I taught my students that they were lying to them, 12, good men and women do nothing to stop the destruction. All of these links, Lou, in the chain of the American collapse render our nation overly ripe for national destruction and internal implosion, just like Karl Marx predicted. Obama has done every one of these things, and his plan is straight out of Marxism and Saul Alinsky's playbook. Trust me on this one subject, folks. Communism never works. Communism always fails, and the citizens live in abject poverty and total fear and misery. We have to stop this now. What do you think, Lou?
I think you're absolutely right. We have to stop it now, and I think that we are, we're looking at a presidential election where obviously on the left, either of those guys is just going to make it worse. So Hillary or Bernie's going to make it worse. On the right, Trump, in my mind, would just make it worse for all of his rhetoric and everything that he says. He would just make it worse. And any of the other three are a better choice than he is.
I agree with you. And here's what I predict. Good men and women will stand up and fight and ultimately save the United States of America from collapse. But the blood of both patriots and tyrants will be spilled into the streets and neighborhoods of America in order to refresh our tree of liberty. As I always say, let freedom ring, God help us, and please, please, always speak the truth and endure the consequences, people.
And God bless America. And we went right up to the end. Catch us here Tuesdays, 5 p.m. every week on WNJC, K98 Talk, Sundays at noon. And Dr. A and I are together on For Whom the Bell Tolls, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on K98 Talk. You guys have a great week.
So long, everybody.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Don't go forgetting me, baby, but I don't want to stick around. The world has been driving me crazy. Don't want to think of it, meaning way too profound. A darkness about.
You wanna be near me when the ship is run aground. The water is shallow and hazy. The storm is upon us, it's too late to turn around.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberty conservative conservatism.
where no one is safe and no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola
round.
radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
I've seen this happen before. There's a full moon out tonight. I'm a fool, but you can't fool me twice. I wear my secret deception just like a disguise. When I reveal myself in the light, stick around and you might pay the price. Enough with the questions, it's time that we said our goodbyes.
I knew that this wouldn't be easy.
Try not to tie it down.
No, nothing you say can appease me.
If you wanted to go, then you would have been gone before now. The darkness about